Hi, this is Ginger Sosnowski, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I started painting when I was around 27 years old, oil painting with my mom. We painted for perhaps 5 years together until my mother suddenly passed away, at which time I discontinued painting. And I picked up a paintbrush again 20 years later in the year 2020. And at the same time, we came into this pandemic, and the paintbrush has been my savior. I decided to start painting some food items, which are my favorite food items to eat, which ironically I don't eat anymore because I no longer eat carbs or sugar. I find great love in painting what I love to paint, and I enjoy looking at my artwork all day long, working from home during the quarantine, and I hope you guys do too.
The three P's all in some way emblemize persons of society's fringe. Firstly, a young man is nearing puberty. This kid discovered his mother's high heels in a mirror. But what is this young man thinking? Is this merely childhood play, or might it be a prelude to his approaching sexuality? We don't know. The viewer is encouraged to find his own interpretation. Imagine you are standing on the 23rd Street platform in the New York City subway, waiting for your train, when this vision of abstraction and color comes through the entrance turnstile. Such display of color. She carries her telephone in hand and, by the wry smile on her face, obviously has just seen something amusing. What can she be viewing herself? She screamed, "Paint me." A little further downtown, at Canal Street Station, a colorfully dressed woman has fallen asleep on a bench while waiting for her train. A mound of pink, some hot, some not. Her dress presents a bit childish. What? It was something akin to a poodle skirt. Perhaps her story is more disquieting. Now, juxtapose her with a fashionably dressed woman headed in the opposite direction. The irony is unbearable. Imagine their contrasting stories.
From food to language, materialism, and attitudes, I believe we are what we eat. My work looks at the new age world of TikTok, Netflix, Tinder, and Instagram influencers through the lens of an Italian upbringing in one of the largest Amish communities in America. That specifically being Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Growing up with a Mennonite babysitter and my father coming from the region of Tuscany, I have seen many similarities between the two cultures and big differences. The result is a deep appreciation for simplicity in life, with the twist being that I have a huge admiration for fashion and color. Huge. Because of this, my paintings can often depict brightly patterned images that lightly question why we feel the need for so much hustle, bustle, and complexity and competition in America. Themes often found in my work include color, classism, consumerism, pop culture, and humor.
I've recently brought the focus of my subject matter to our immediate contemporary culture, allowing me to connect the work to the world outside my studio and express the cross currents that I sense are pulsing through. I don't start from an intention or a preconceived idea. The selection of elements is based on their form, emotional resonance, the expression, the atmosphere. It's a completely subconscious choice. This is why the work can have a dreamlike quality, since the images are formed subconsciously, and like dreams, the meaning might not be perfectly clear or obvious, but they reverberate within us and give us something to think about. I keep the figurative detail to a minimum in order to emphasize the shape of the form. I'm not trying to create a narrative or doing anyone's portrait. It's a collage of impressions that work together visually. I see these paintings as visual poetry. The color is emotional, and again, it's a very intuitive process. Once I get going, the painting starts to let me know what colors it wants.
I've been up since dawn today. Nothing unusual. Normal. Steady breathing and all. But more than ever, I wish I had a TV. Most days I watch the sunlight move across the floor. It's pretty boring stuff, but I've become an expert at it. I can tell you exactly where the sun will be at any time of day. Ronnie left behind one book, and it's about Japanese architecture. I've read it twice now. I'm not sure if I ever told you this, but in Canberra, when I was a teenager, I went to a boarding school for music. And one year while I was gone, my parents and my sisters went to Japan for 2 weeks. What upset me the most was that they never told me. A couple years later, I found the photos from the trip in a drawer. I showed them to my mother, and I asked her, what is this? And she said, well, Nora, we just didn't think you'd be interested. But really, it's nice in California. It's a shame I had my accident so soon after getting here. I'd make myself a gimlet to settle the aches, but the doctor says that I can't drink till I'm all healed. I asked him, Doc, what am I supposed to do all day if I can't get off the couch? Let me have a happy hour at least. He says, Nora, the secret is, whenever you're tempted to drink, eat a banana. Really. So the good news is I started smoking again. My next door neighbor has been practicing the piano all hours. Can you hear it? She's not very skilled, but it's nice to hear music. But as I was saying, this morning, I was on the roof again. This has been 3 times now, where I blink and then, wow, I'm up there. And while it's all happening, I'm thinking, well, that's impossible. Because since the accident, I haven't been able to get off the sofa at all. I barely make it to the toilet most days. And while I'm thinking this, recognizing this, my body freezes, and then it's like, back inside, flat on my ass. So that's happened twice before today. But last night, it was the same. I watched the sun sitting, getting closer, closer, and right when it's about to get really dark, poof, daylight. I know you're thinking, well, Nora, that's sleeping, dear. But you're wrong. It isn't sleep. It's something else entirely. Maybe I'm getting allergic to nighttime. Do you have any allergies, Alan? I can't remember now. Does that make me a bad friend? Don't answer. And Ronnie left this bouquet for me. Sunflowers. They're all withered now, but I don't have the heart to throw them away. Makes me smile even if they're dying. Could you send me some flowers, Alan? Maybe something a bit more luxurious this time. I had a workmate who kept dried lavender all over her flat. Bit of a psycho, though. Especially though I miss having friends. Is it my fault that I lost them all? You and I have had our differences too. You know me better than a lot of people. You might be the only person I know who ever decided that they didn't like me and then changed their mind. I can be a little, forceful, I know that. And I find it hard to focus on other people. I get afraid that I'll never talk to another person again. Have you felt that way? I can see my neighbors on a walk, but the roads look deserted. Like everybody left town and forgot to tell me. The only other people I hear are the piano lady and the guy across the hall. One time, though, and this is a bit creepy, actually, I heard him leave his flat and stop right outside my door. And he stayed there for near 20 minutes. Didn't knock, didn't make a sound, but it was like I could hear him. And I was double afraid because in that instant I realized that I hadn't set the deadbolt. And so here I am, defenseless, ill, trapped on the couch for whoever to break in and do whatever they wish to me. So I'm lying there, holding my breath, reaching for that butter knife that I lost under the seat. And you know what? He just walks away. That was the last time I heard from him. And here's the really horror story part, Alan. That was the first night that I skipped over my sleeping. After that first week, I started to wonder, am I under a spell? Probably sound a little bit Fruit Loop saying this, Alan, a bit mental. And regardless, it doesn't really matter if I'm under a spell or not, because I still have to deal with the consequences. I took it for granted when I could still walk, touching everything in the neighborhood. Palm trees, fluorescent lights, satellite dishes. Sometimes I see a fast food restaurant sign and I just start crying. Like that. I don't know what comes over me. I worry that there's something wrong with my brain, you know. I wish I could be harder, but I'm soft. Things melt right into me. I can't keep them out. Morbid a bit. Could I just evaporate at some point? I remember it getting dark, seeing those bushy trees with that awful sun behind it, wondering, what if I never get up again? When I was little, I'd wait for that moment when I fell asleep. It made me really afraid that I could never recall what it felt like. I'd keep myself up all night, afraid of what I couldn't remember. Are you ever just afraid? Not because of anything in particular, but do you feel that fear sitting right on your heart? I feel like I didn't tell you the truth at all. Oh. Oh, here it comes. Wish me luck.
My paintings and drawings are a celebration of humanity found in New York City. I try to capture a person's movements and gestures that indicate personality. I use candid photos as inspiration that show the energy and diversity one can observe walking down the street or riding the subway. People maintain their privacy in crowds or find ways to connect. I use minimal context to focus on the people whose lives I try to imagine. I am interested in the character, distinctive features, and cultural signals expressed in clothing and attitude. The color is heightened in my paintings to convey my emotional response to this energy.
Oral statement by me, Keith Thompson. All I've ever wanted out of art is escapism. That's it. My only hope for a painting after I'm finished painting it is that it provides a measure of escapism for someone else, or that it's an improvement over one of their blank walls. Maybe after I've been painting for a few more years, I'll have a more cerebral or introspective answer to the question of why I'm doing it. But in the meantime, here are some answers that some other artists gave that resonate with me. First, great art picks up where nature ends. Marc Chagall. If I could say it in words, there would be no reason to paint. Edward Hopper. It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. Henry David Thoreau. Artists are just children who refuse to put down their crayons. Al Hirschfeld. Art is longing. You never arrive, but you keep going in the hope that you will. Anselm Kiefer. And finally, my idea of heaven is to wake up, have a good breakfast, and spend the rest of the day drawing. Peter Falk. Thank you.
I wanted to pick the truthful and ordinary scenes of life with children. My work, which has become part of my parenting, is a direct push against the stigma that women artists have, and the expectation to choose between career and motherhood. My identity as a mother is a large part of me, but being a painter is who I am, and both identities coexist in my paintings. And moms don't always get to shower alone. I wanted to make a painting show what it was like for me as a mother to shower with my children. I got permission from my daughter to take a photo of us in the shower before I turn on the water, and I work from that to start the painting. I used thin layers of glazed medium with charcoal and acrylic. Stretch marks came from a couple of pictures I took while weaning my youngest from breastfeeding. I was looking at my body and the stretched skin from having 2 kids, and I decided to take pictures to make a painting. I use charcoal and more thin layers of glazed medium mixed into the paint.
I'm grateful to be a part of this exhibition and proud to show beside such terrific artists. In this show, I am exhibiting 3 images from a recent body of work dealing with the various responsibilities of domestic caretaking. As a mother of 2 small children, part-time caregiver to 95-year-old grandparents, and a caretaker of an ill father until his recent death, I've traded in my former subject matter of cakes and babies for pill bottles, beer cans, spilled coffee, medical bills, and the like. Similar to my other works, I have delivered these narratives in a thinly veiled shroud of domestic mundanity, obliquely depicting the semi-autobiographical stories most personal to me. Viewers who choose to dig beyond the initial read may discover moodier undercurrents of love, loss, and duty. Thanks for listening, and I hope you reach out if you have any questions about the work.
Initially, my painting was inspired by classical Renaissance and Baroque approaches, in where the figures are highly rendered and they're presented with a dramatic force like that of actors on a stage, or people that are posing for maximum dramatic effect, like classical academic portraiture, but with a little more attitude. And I did learn a lot by doing that, but then I decided I wanted to branch out and be inspired by more traditional, what you would call animistic cultures, like Native American or Mesoamerican or African, where the people believe that physical material has its own spirit. And I wanted to use that to incorporate that into my little theatrical settings and get twice as much attitude out of it, and a more mysterious atmosphere and sort of alternate world that's more than just aesthetically pleasing.